What is up? Welcome to WireTapped, Club Fantasy's weekly waiver wire show as we head into week 7 of the NFL season. I think it is safe to say we are in the thick of it. 6 weeks in, we have our first head coach firing. Backup running backs are all over the place, and the best wide receiver in fantasy football is now hurt. Let's get into it. What is up? Welcome to WireTapped, Club Fantasy's weekly waiver wire show. I am your host, Ryan Weiss. With me, as always, Joshua Hudson. Josh, how are you recovering from the back-to-back Monday night games?
Oh, I hate this tradition so much.
I know you do. Every time this comes up, and then I think it was Jay in our Monday chat a few weeks ago was like, they should do this every week, and you were like, hell no.
Well, I mean, it's like, I get the comparison that, we have multiple games on at the same time on Sundays. Okay, cool. They're not primetime games.
Yeah.
Like, primetime games is a spectacle. I don't want overlap on spectacles. It's the same thing like if there were two, LCS games in baseball playing at the same time. I don't want that. I want them all on the same channel, and I want them back to back. It's not hard.
Next week you get the ugly, the anti-East Coast Monday night doubleheader or this week, I guess, because it's a 10:30 doubleheader where it's 7 o'clock and 10:30.
But see, that's fine for me.
It's not for me.
I can live with that.
I'm old as shit. I'm in bed by the time that second game kicks off.
You barely watch the Monday night games.
I do not watch. For those who do not follow this show and me as an old man, I actually do not watch primetime games. On the Thursday show, the Thursday night game, we record our DFS show. And then Sunday night and Monday night, I'm just like, no, thank you. I see a lot of familiar faces in the chat. Shout out to each and every one of you. I am going to throw one of them up. Our guy Caesar back on top in the Club Fantasy Listener League. First place yet again. Shout out to Caesar. Holding the damn thing down. If you guys have never tuned into the show, drop your questions in the chat. We'll answer every single one of them. Long and short is this show is going to break down the waiver wire for week 7. If you still have questions after this show is over, we do have a completely free Discord. If you like what we're doing, hit that like button. If you want to hear it again next week or tomorrow night, hit that subscribe button. If you happen to be listening on Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. And Josh, quickly, let them know what we got going on with Trophy Smack.
Yeah, the fantasy football season's here, and Trophy Smack is where you want to get all of those rewards. They have trophies, rings, championship belts, all designed to tell your league mates who the real champion is. So hit the link in the description of this podcast and check out some of the swag that you can get to gloat and lord your accomplishments over your league mates. It's all available at trophysmack.com/club fantasy.
Josh, before we get into the waiver wires, let's talk a little NFL news and notes. I have a feeling we don't typically dance on people's graves, but I have a feeling you are not upset that the Titans have fired head coach Brian Callahan. DJ Moore taken to the hospital after the Monday night game, kept overnight in Washington, D.C. Brian Branch suspended 1 game after he Josh has it listed as he struck Juju Smith-Schuster. And then drug him around by his ear. It was wild. Garrett Wilson, it was announced, hyperextended his knee. He is reportedly going to miss a few weeks. Kyle Shanahan expects George Kittle back at practice this week, which means he could be playing against Atlanta. And Anthony Richardson, Jesus Christ, that hit that he took in the pregame, fractured his orbital bone in the Sunday pregame. If you haven't seen the video, go watch the video. Wild stuff. But Josh, I think the one most people, we can't really allude much to the injuries. We are not doctors, but I think you do have a pretty solid take on what's going on with the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, Brian Callahan, when they hired him last year, felt like a bad move, quite honestly. Not a very creative offensive coordinator, not even an OC that called plays in Cincinnati under Zach
We've been
Taylor.
talking about that a lot, that we're weirded out by this. So
it's just one of those things where these head coaches that don't call plays, you're setting yourself up for failure because you have no frame of reference how their offense is going to work with them calling the plays.
Absolutely.
It's one thing where, Nick Sirianni, for instance, right? Coming into Philly, he didn't really call plays in Indianapolis with the Colts. That was Frank Reich when he was the head coach there. He called the plays. So then it became, well, shit, if we're going to get a similar offense, okay, cool. But how's that going to work with him calling the plays? Well, didn't last very long. Took 9 games before he said, you know what, Shane Steichen, that's on you. And then look what happened with Philly. Things got a lot better. But now things are running into issues when they're bringing in guys like Brian Johnson in 2023, Kevin Patullo this year, who don't have a frame of reference because they don't have somebody over their shoulder that actually knows how to call plays either. Yeah. This is the situation here with Brian Callahan. That was the problem from the very beginning in Tennessee, is that Callahan did not hire a competent offensive coordinator that had experience calling plays. So this offense was set up to fail from the beginning, which has stunted the growth and development of their number 1 pick, Cam Ward. The offense works, quote unquote, if you have a gunslinger at quarterback, which is what Cam Ward can be. But if you don't have somebody that knows how to call plays, you're fucked. So now you bring in senior offensive assistant Mike McCoy as the interim head coach, who is likely going to be the guy that calls plays as well. Now, here's the problem. McCoy has not called plays in the NFL since 2018.
It's a very different league from 7 years ago.
Very different league. But he's also been the guy that called plays with Peyton Manning in 2012 in Denver. They were pretty damn good.
Yeah.
In 2013, in then San Diego with the Chargers, Phillip Rivers was the quarterback. If I'm Cam Ward, the first thing I'm doing is calling my agent and getting the phone numbers of Phillip Rivers and Peyton Manning so that I can be like, hey, what do I need to expect with Mike McCoy?
Yeah.
Because that is what this offense is going to look like now. Could be good, could be not great, because this team doesn't have a ton of playmakers.
Exactly.
And that really is going to be the biggest problem. But if McCoy can simplify it and say, this is how we need to run things, there's room for growth with this team.
Josh, this perfectly leads into Jason Williams' question. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw him up on the screen now as we slide into the user question portion of the show. Drop Ayamanor for Bourne or Trey Tucker. It's a half PPR redraft. So you hit the nail on the head. This is a team lacking in playmakers. It's sounding like everything I read that Calvin Ridley is not going to play in week 7. So now you have this whole new offense, and as wild as what I'm about to say is, Ayamanor might be the best wide receiver on the team. I don't know that I'm in a rush to drop him right now, Josh. Bourne's been crazy interesting. Trey Tucker is an enigma, and I don't know that you're getting any better by going to Trey Tucker from Ayamanor. Obviously, fantasy-wise, Tucker looks better, but a lot of that is on the back of a 48-point week a couple of weeks ago, and you don't get credit for those points anymore. So, Josh, roping in what you've said about this Titans offense, is Ayamanor a hold for now?
If I need a starter for week 7, it's Kendrick Bourne.
Okay.
That's how I'm looking at it. With all of the injuries right now that the San Francisco wide receivers are dealing with, Juwan Jennings came out and said he has 5 broken ribs. Pearsall with the knee injury has missed 2 to 3 games. I don't know how you can bank on him for week 7. We mentioned in the news and notes, Kyle Shanahan's come out and said he expects Kittle to practice this week to be available week 7. But then what happens if he's not, right? Kendrick Bourne is the last man standing right now. So even if Kittle plays, even if Jennings is able to play, right now he's the most trustworthy wide receiver outside of Christian McCaffrey that's a pass catcher on that 49ers team. So I don't really care who is quarterbacking this team right now. Kendrick Bourne needs to be rostered. He needs to be a flex option. Now, if you're talking about the next month, I want Ayamanor over Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not rushing to start them. They're bench depth to help cover bye weeks.
And we're taking both of them over Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker obviously had like
right now, the only Raider that I want on my team is Ashton Genty. That's it.
Yep. And it sounds like Brock Bowers is out again this week. They're going to rest him through the bye, and then we'll see if he can come back and do anything for those who wasted that high draft pick on him. Jaquarius dropped Tyrone Tracy for Tyjae Spears or Tyler Algier. I'm kind of in on this Tyjae Spears thing, Josh. Just we saw Cam Ward throw to the running back a lot this past week. I read Tyjae Spears actually played more snaps than Tony Pollard, though a lot of that came in garbage time. I think I'd rather have Spears than Tracy because it's clearly Cam Scatabo for New York.
Yeah, and I'm fine with it. Algier is essentially a handcuff
Very much so.
Like
he'll come up.
He has standalone value, but it's a very low floor. Obviously, he scored this week, so that props him up.
Absolutely.
But those are the types of games that you get with Tyler Algier, right? Most games are going to be 3-4 points, 30, 40 yards, whatever. Occasionally, he'll spike because he'll get a red zone carry that he ends up scoring with. But it's pretty clear Bijan Robinson is the starter. But if something were to happen to Bijan, knock on wood, Tyler Algier instantly becomes a top 15 back. You can kind of say the same thing about Spears. Tracy also to a degree, but Tracy's kind of shown that he has a very limited ceiling, in my opinion. And right now, Cam Scatabo is just that dude. Yeah. To me, all these guys are the same, if I'm being honest. I just think that Spears and Algier do have more standalone value. So I would be okay targeting either of them. I would probably put Spears ahead of Algier.
That's what I made the article. Jesse, I didn't miss you. I just worked the questions backwards. We only had 3 questions. Josh, would you trade Hurts for Lamar? It's a 2 QB league. Yes, Josh Allen on bye this week, meaning he would have no quarterbacks this week. He's just chalking up the L for week 7. Josh, I took a quick look at this. First of all, Jesse is 6-0. Congratulations, Jesse. I'm not so worried about Hurts' week 9 bye. Josh, Jalen Hurts is the QB4 right now. You're 6-0. I'm not fucking with this roster at all.
I was going to say, I mean, Lamar Jackson, while he's missed a couple of games, he is technically the QB2 in fantasy behind Patrick Mahomes. But again, Hurts is QB4 overall in the season. I think QB5 in points per game. Like, you're still rocking and rolling. Like, it's not that big of an upgrade to say, you know what, I'm going to take that L in week 7. Like, if you're 6-0, just stay the course, dude. Like, you don't need to. It's not that big of an upgrade for me, I guess, is really what I'm saying.
Yeah. Let's move on because the very next question has to do with something we're about to talk about. So we'll be right back to user questions. They're all going to get answered. Trust us. I put out an article every single week of my top 5 waiver ads, and I did something a little different this week than I normally do. First, let's quickly recap last week. I don't want to sit here and toot Club Fantasy's horn, but you're all here watching. You know what you heard last week. You know what you read last week. I told Josh, I think we were the only podcast, at least that I was aware of, that called it was Kimani Vidal over Hassan Haskins. And damn, were we right. Victory celebration here at Club Fantasy. Rest of my picks were okay. Romeo Dobbs was good. Darren Waller still found the end zone. Not a great game for him, but it was pretty damn good.
We told you it was going to be a not so great game.
Yeah, exactly. But I started this week off with a player that I may have done mainly for the SEO. It should have been Kimani Vidal, who did not hit 50% rostered. He should be your number 1 waiver priority yet again, especially with the news that Amari Hampton may miss multiple weeks. But I went ahead and made Jaxson Dart my number 1 waiver priority. I'll give you the full list of 5, but then we need to spend some time on Jaxson Dart. Jaxson Dart at 1, Kimani Vidal at 2. Flip those, but for SEO, Jaxson Dart at 1, Tyjae Spears at 3, Sterling Shepard at 4, and Zonovan Bam Knight as my number 5 pick. Josh, I have to give you credit where it's due. You have been on this Jaxson Dart thing literally from the preseason. I think you almost called the week this was going to happen. The kid has looked good, Josh.
3 straight games with over 50 rushing yards.
Yep.
He's totaled 2 touchdowns in every single game. 4 passing, 2 rushing. He's averaging 10 rush attempts per game. That is what we want from a fantasy football quarterback. Over these last 3 games, he is the QB8 on the season. The moment that he got the opportunity, it was wheels up. Of course, we had hoped that Malik Neighbors would be a part of it and he might be a top 5 quarterback, but sadly, that's not the case. Which honestly makes this all the more impressive that he's doing all of this without that number 1 target.
Yeah.
Maybe that means he's rushing more. I don't know, but still. This is a good thing. When you have the opportunity to grab a quarterback that has top 8 upside every single week because of their rushing, they don't belong on waivers, plain and simple.
Absolutely.
I don't care single QB, clearly in Superflex or 2 quarterback, but single QB leagues, he needs to be rostered. I have a auction league that I'm in that Ryan, you thankfully, drafted for me because I got called into work. But
yeah,
I had 5 quarterbacks in this league, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to start, wheeling and dealing. I ended up trading Brock Purdy preseason for Rome Odunze, looking great.
Amazing.
Now I've got 4 quarterbacks. I've got Mahomes. I've got
Jaxson
Jaden Daniels.
Jaxson Dart
I've got Jordan Love. And now Jaxson Dart. I'm like, all right, I need to make another deal here. But it's also a keeper league. So I'm like, I am holding on to Jaxson Dart.
Yeah.
But I've got the QB1. I've got Jaden Daniels. I've got Dart. One of them is not playing in a given week.
I was so happy with that pick when I made it. I was like, I feel like because I knew you were on him. I try to do those drafts knowing what I've learned about you from the whole summer when I have to draft for you. And I felt so good about that Dart pick. And I'm glad it's coming to fruition.
Yeah, it's going to be a great keeper for me next year. So
I'm not going to jump to all the user questions, but the next question, Josh, pertains to this. Mark Folkman wants to know, would you drop Fields for Dart? And Josh, this is tough for you because these are two guys who you've been kind of conducting the hype train.
I don't know about hype train. I've been very down on Fields, but
what I'm getting at is you've talked about the rushing upside, and I want to throw one more thing out about Dart because I mentioned this in the article, Josh. Dart has Denver in Denver this week, and I need to know if we're concerned about that.
Yeah, I mean, look what literally what just happened to Fields. Like, he was one of my downsides this past week because Denver limits rushing upside to quarterbacks. Fields lapped it, 31 yards
compared to everybody else.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Denver has contained rushing quarterbacks. They've contained Jones and Hurts, and there was one other that I'm missing right now. But Fields only put up 31, which again for him not great, right? But they also limited him to under 50 passing yards and sacked him 9 times. So, you go against Denver as a rookie, you're in for some trouble. So, no, I'm not rushing to do that, especially because Fields does have a really good matchup this week.
Absolutely.
Against Carolina in New York. So, I do like Fields this week. But if you're asking me rest of season, I want Jaxson Dart through and through, and especially because Fields probably isn't going to have his best receiving option this week either.
And that's what we're going to throw in here, Mark, is we're not saying don't get Jaxson Dart. We're saying don't drop Fields for Dart. You probably need to drop your last roster player to make this happen. Josh, before we move on to the rest of the questions, let's just quickly go over Kimani Vidal, Tyjae Spears, Sterling Shepard, Bam Knight. The chat is giving us our praise. I see every one of those comments. We're not going to put it up on the screen. We don't need that much of an ego inflation, but we appreciate you guys appreciating us. Josh, this went down exactly how you and I said it was going to go down. Hassan Haskins stayed in his hybrid running back special teams role. I will admit, I got this twinge of nervousness Sunday that Naheem Hines could end up being in the passing down role. My man did nothing at all this week.
That's it.
Yep. Kimani Vidal comes in. Obviously, it took some second half magic, gets up over 100 yards, catches a touchdown, did all the things that essentially we said he was going to do. There's going to be a lot of Kimani Vidal questions, and we already have one in the chat. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the thing is, Josh, the thing that matters most about this is they're now saying, I hated this terminology when I read it. Omarion Hampton's not out for the season, but he is going to miss more than the 4 requisite games. That's fucking rough.
100% it's rough, which again just makes Vidal that much more important.
Yeah.
Now, again, this is kind of what I'm trying to get across to people. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. They played Miami, and Miami's defense is trash. Okay, they literally just gave up 200 yards to Rico Dowdle.
I'm going to throw one more brake pump in there, Josh. They made it very clear. News was out. They are shopping for a running back, and Josh, I'm terrified that Breece Hall ends up here.
Well, and that's the other side of it. I mean, if Garrett Wilson is going to miss, 2, 3, 4 weeks, there's a chance that the Jets are 0-10.
Yep.
You can't hang on to a running back at that point. You just can't. So,
and they're already shopping him.
And they're already shopping him. Like, Breece Hall's already come out and said he doesn't want to go anywhere, but he doesn't have the kind of leverage that someone like Alvin Kamara does, who's put in the time in New Orleans, just signed the contract extension. So there's a chance, sure. And then, of course, you look at it like, Najee's on a 1-year deal, Breece Hall expiring. They want to have a tandem running back, right? Can you imagine them re-signing Breece Hall, teaming with Omarion Hampton? How frustrated and irate our dynasty manager is going to be right now, right? Like,
and then it goes back to the comments in the preseason about how there is no bell cow running back anymore, and like it just kind of lends into it. I want to quickly throw out here, guys. I see all the questions; they will all be answered right after this segment. But
yeah, it's definitely worrisome. But again, I mean, you have to take this week by week, and right now, Kimani Vidal is the guy until further notice.
Yeah. And then the last one I want to talk about, Josh, is you brought up a very interesting point. I don't even call it interesting. It's a good point about tempering expectations for Sterling Shepard. And I think I did a good job about that in my article. He's definitely more valuable in PPR, but we have to go into this wide-eyed that even if Emeka Egbuka misses time, Sterling Shepard is not Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah, I mean, just look at his weeks. I mean, he doesn't have a single game over 6 targets. Now, mind you, they have been strapped for wide receivers literally all season.
All season.
And he still has not seen more than 6 targets in a game. They lost to Egbuka this week. He saw 3 targets in this game.
Tez Johnson and Kamarian Johnson.
Exactly. So, like, Sterling Shepard is the trusted veteran, yes, but he's not somebody that's going to pull away and separate from corners. He's a reliable guy underneath that can beat zone coverage. He doesn't have a single game this season over 13 fantasy points. And again, the Bucs have been devoid of wide receivers all season.
Absolutely.
So let's not jump to conclusions to say Sterling Shepard is now the wide receiver 1. Yeah, the Johnson & Johnson tandem.
Exactly.
You know, so they're going to get Tez Johnson involved. They're going to get Cameron Johnson involved. Maybe we see some more Cade Otton. I had an interesting point in my notes, like, hey, maybe, just maybe, this team decides to run a little bit more 12 personnel, utilize Rachaad White out of the slot or out wide because he is a really good receiving option.
And then
use Sean Tucker in the backfield, and we finally get the renaissance we've been waiting for. But this team's running 11 personnel at a 70% clip. They're not going to change that.
Yeah.
They're just going to say, next man up. We're going to see more Tez. We're going to see more Cameron. And it's going to be Sterling Shepard. And then they're going to bring up guys from the practice squad because that's just what Tampa Bay is going to do. There's also rumors that maybe we get Mike Evans back this week. And if that happens, then you can basically kiss Sterling Shepard goodbye. So when you're looking at this, I'm not going to blow some FAAB on Sterling Shepard because he just has he has a floor and no ceiling, and that's it.
And I'll give you that. I will say I don't believe Mike Evans coming back is the kiss of death for Sterling Shepard. They play very different roles.
They play very different roles, 100%. But we've already seen Sterling Shepard's role, and it's not sexy.
Well, that's the definition of Sterling Shepard's career to this point, so you're not wrong there at all. Josh, let's get into the audience questions. Jonathan Santiago just in here to brag a little bit. He's in second place, but his team now has 0 wide receivers, as he has Garrett Wilson hurt, Marvin Harrison hurt, Emeka Egbuka hurt, Zay Flowers. I mean, he's not hurt, but not doing much until they get.
Well, it's a bye week. So,
I didn't even see there was a question tucked in the middle here. I thought we were literally just in here gloating for a minute. But would you trade Wandale for Zay Flowers? So I'm guessing because he has Zay Flowers. So would you move Flowers to bring in Wandale?
I would not. We touched on Zay Flowers a little bit on yesterday's anxiety.
Actually, hold on a second, because he says he's hoping for a Lamar return. So he doesn't have Zay Flowers. I'm very confused by this question because you made it in your list like you do have Zay Flowers. So Josh, you would rather have Flowers, I guess, is the best.
Yeah, I would rather have Flowers over Wandale. Flowers, he's a wide receiver too. I don't believe Wandale is that. Even in a PPR league, like, he's going to see some volume, sure, but again, you're still talking about Wandale being misplaced as a wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
And that's just not what I want. So
like I said, and I agree with you. In full PPR, I think he touches on wide receiver 2. I think he's all Jaxson Dart has right now. It's going to be interesting. Someone who is here to gloat and has every fucking right to do so is our guy Millie, who is our resident Falcons fan. And man, Josh, that game last night did not go the way me or anyone else expected.
It feels like an eternity ago that they got blanked by the Panthers.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Atlanta has the firepower on offense. They do. And it's just a matter of, can Michael Penix get through I know he's technically his second year, but he's within his first 17 starts. Like, he's still a rookie as a starting quarterback. Like, he needs to be able to get through these humps. But without Darnell Mooney, without Ray McCloud, Bijan Robinson is absolutely balling. He's got over 800 yards from scrimmage in 5 games.
Yeah, the whole world thought that Rico Dowdle was going to be the RB1 again, and Bijan Robinson said, not so fast.
Hold this beer. That's what he said. And Drake London had like a 50% target share. Like, absolutely bonkers. Absolutely exposed that Bills defense.
The Falcons did the bye week right, as I think.
Exactly. Exactly what they did.
Yep. Shout out, Millie. Congratulations, buddy. Quincy is 6-0. Congratulations. Second 6-0 in the chat. You love to see it. However, Josh, he has Ibuka and Garrett Wilson as well. I don't think he's in dire straits, though. He has Cortland Sutton, Rashee Rice, Mike Evans. Would we drop Hendo to grab Higgins or more? And Josh, I'm not going to do this. Do you have to start 3 wide receivers? Is that why you mentioned 3? I'm not mad at Sutton and Rice, Josh. When I did my first run of rankings, Rashee Rice is a top 12 wide receiver for me already.
Yeah, Sutton and Rice are going to be fine. Again, Evans is kind of a question mark, but if you don't have to start 3 wide receivers, I'm okay. You don't have to make this move. I would like to think that maybe there's somebody else that you could drop instead of Henderson.
I mean, I'm not mad at Higgins, 11 points in his first game.
But I'm also unsure how deep this league is, because I know Quincy,
too.
I believe in the chat, has talked about that he does play in an 8-man. And if that's the case, then I'd be okay dropping Henderson.
That's true, too. Yeah, depending on how deep the league is. Let's be clear. We have no idea when Henderson is going to pop. We don't know that Henderson is going to pop. So we can keep that alive.
But when you're getting 18 yards against the Saints, time is ticking.
Yeah. Jonathan Santiago, is Chase Brown a possible buy low, really nice end of year schedule, or is the line just that bad? I mean, I'm always for buying running backs low, Josh. We've said all along, the kid is still an RB2. He didn't do a whole lot with Joe Flacco, but you have to imagine this team continues to hopefully get better. I do see Chase Brown as a buy low target.
Yeah, I mean, the snap share is still there, and that's why we like Bengals running backs, because they do the same thing with every single one. They're always on the field. They don't come off. So there's always going to be opportunity. You know, they're struggling from a running game perspective, sure. Chase Brown was inefficient last year and did fine. It's just a matter of time before they start, getting in sync and in rhythm. But, Flacco didn't look terrible. He looked a lot better with the Bengals than he did with the Browns. I can tell you that. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you're lowering his ceiling. That's all.
Yeah. Pats or Chiefs defense this week. Welcome to the literal debate I was having before I published my rankings last night. I was struggling with these two. They're right next to each other in my rankings. Pats are at Tennessee. Chiefs are at home against Vegas. I think that gives the Chiefs a little bit of an edge. I will say last night I put the Pats ahead, but as I'm answering this question, I think I'm going to take the home team, Josh, and go with the Chiefs.
Sure. I don't do defense. That's
exactly.
All you, man.
Rashee Rice or Tedoroa McMillan this week, Josh. I'm in on this Rashee Rice. Like I said, moved him immediately into my top 12. I think he's only a spot or two ahead of Tedoroa McMillan. But if I had both of these two and had to choose, I would go Rashee Rice.
Yeah, I mean, Panthers traveling to New York. Obviously, McMillan's going to see a lot of Sauce Gardner. Carolina struggles on the road. At the end of the day, first off, Chiefs play the Raiders. Yeah. Come on.
That's why it was easy for me to say.
You've been holding on to Rashee Rice literally for this moment. Like, you don't want to see him blow up on the bench. Like,
how pissed are you going to be?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're starting Rashee Rice this week.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to make sure I deleted a question. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. No, I didn't. All right. Next up is Christian's Cruise. Drop Pollard, pick up Kimani Vidal. Interesting question, Josh. If you'd asked me this question before the Omari and Hampton news, I would have said, no, this is going too far. I'm still nervous about a trade here, but Pollard has been pretty damn average, and he's about to be in a little bit of a timeshare. If I need wins in the next 3 weeks, I would go with Kimani Vidal. It's a tough drop, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love dropping running backs, period. I'd rather drop a wide receiver and pick up Kimani Vidal.
And I want to get into that when we get into our actual waivers section. You do not need a lot of wide receivers on your team right now. There are so many out there on waivers that you can just go grab when it's time to grab. There are guys that you just do not need to be holding on to right now.
Yeah, you can play matchups a lot better with wide receivers than running backs. I mean, if I have to, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, Kimani Vidal is on a better offense, so he's going to have a higher ceiling as a result of it. But I guess... Yeah, really, for me, it depends on what my league looks like, what my team in that league looks like. Again, I'm not rushing to do this.
No.
And it's not because I don't like Pollard more than Vidal or vice versa. It's simply because I much rather drop wide receivers for running backs.
Drop your kicker and get Pollard,
go.
and then that at least delays the decision for a few days. So
that's another way to do it, 100%.
Yep. Search. Pick one for the flex. Jalen Warren, DeAndre Swift, Ricky Pearsall, Calvin Ridley, Matthew Golden. Blanked on Golden's name for a second. Josh, I think we could both immediately remove Pearsall and Ridley from this list. We're not going to trust either.
Well, Ridley's probably going to be out with a hamstring injury.
Exactly.
Pearsall potentially out with a knee injury, so that dwindles it down.
We saw a little bit of good Golden this week. We saw a little bit of good Warren this week. We saw a lot of great DeAndre Swift this week, but you also don't get Washington every week.
Yeah, and that's kind of my whole point. Like, I know somebody asked me, I think it was yesterday actually, would you start Debo or Swift? And I was very much on the Debo side, and I feel very bad about that, especially after a 50-yard receiving touchdown for DeAndre Swift. But, he had over 100 yards rushing, not something that Bears running backs do typically.
Yeah.
They've struggled all year. Maybe they've turned a corner. I don't know. I still would prefer Warren, if I'm being honest.
I have them. I have Swift and Warren right next to each other in my rankings. I do have Swift one spot ahead right now. I could be convinced either way. I always let people know my rankings on Tuesday are the roughest they are going to be. Wednesday, I start to dig in a little harder. Thursday, even harder. So maybe come back to this question with us, Search. We go live Wednesday night at 9 p.m. and every Saturday from 11 to 12. All we do is answer start-sit questions. So maybe come back to us on this one. This one's a little bit.
Yeah, Steelers do play on Thursday, but you've got.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Okay.
Yeah, they play the Bengals on Thursday. So
see, that's enough to push me towards Swift too. George,
they get the Saints at home. Saints being an indoor team going outdoors. There's definitely going to be opportunity there. Yeah. To me, both have decent matchups. So
yeah. George wants to know if we would trade Brees for Dobbins or Scat, or do we just hold and pray? I think Scat is what we all wanted Brees to be. I'm fine with that trade.
Yeah, I'm fine with Scat. I think you can probably get Scatabo plus, though, just from name value. So I would try for that first. But swapping one for one, I think, is a fine deal.
Based on the trade the Yankee just put in here, someone's offering him Rome for Scat. Josh, this is so tough for me because
go get Odunze. I don't give a shit.
I was just going to say, I'm always running backs over wide receivers, but Rome Odunze, do not let last night scare you away. Rome Odunze is that dude. Go get Rome Odunze.
Yeah. I love Scatterbo. Don't get me wrong. Odunze is the guy you want.
Josh, we could take a small break here. Let's move into a segment. We'll get back to the user questions in just a moment. I did forget to mention in my top 5, Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, both on bye this week. Keep an eye on the drops. Sometimes players will get dropped out of desperation. Guys like maybe Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir, who teams shouldn't drop that might get dropped. First section of the show where we talk about league-specific waivers. We call it waiting in the kiddie pool. Josh started an 8-team Club Fantasy League just to research because we saw how many of our listeners were in 8-team leagues. Josh, who do you like in 8-teamers this week?
This week, I mentioned a little earlier, Justin Fields does get Carolina in New York. Obviously, this little different without Garrett Wilson, but the rushing upside is just too great to ignore. Carolina's 0-3 on the road this season. There's going to be an opportunity there. Caleb Williams against New Orleans. Caleb Williams is doing well. He's a top 10 quarterback this season. Seems to be clicking in his rapport right now with Ben Johnson's play calling. Talked about it after the season. New Orleans Saints have struggled on defense. He's got the weapons. I like Caleb Williams a lot. Kareem Hunt, the rivalry game. They get the Raiders coming to Arrowhead. Come on. What are we doing? He's got top 24 upside this week, even with Rashee Rice coming back. Honestly, it's going to make his job a lot easier. Didn't really find a ton of wide receivers that I like this week. Couple of tight ends, though. Darren Waller going against Cleveland. Yes, Cleveland's defense is good. They do tend to struggle a little bit against tight ends. So there's going to be opportunity there. And then Zach Ertz against Dallas. Zach Ertz has been beaten up on the Cowboys his entire career. Caught a touchdown this week. Put up 16 fantasy points. I think you can have 10 plus against Dallas this week. And Swish defense.
I love that a lot. And you hit on a note that with the wide receivers, the matchups don't feel great this week for the guys who are out there on waivers. It's an interesting week, but it's even more a reason where I'd rather just have running backs on my bench. I'm not trying to guess which wide receiver is going to pop. So
yeah, 100%.
Now, I like every bit of that. If you guys like what you're hearing, go ahead and hit that like button. If you're watching the show not live, later. Drop comments. We always come back and we'll answer the questions. If you guys weren't watching the show live, we get to every live comment, but we'll also answer any comments that you drop. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We go live multiple days per week. The next time you will find Club Fantasy on your airwaves, though not live, is Sideline Banter, Sam Holt show with Derek Tate tonight. Tomorrow we'll be live again at 9:00 for no pun intended. But as I mentioned, for start sit questions, we're going to answer them all today. The best day to get those answered is Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Start sit different day. All we do is answer those questions. Josh, before we jump into questions, give them one more little preview of what we got going on with Trophy Smack.
Yeah, fantasy football season's here, and Trophy Smack is where you want to get all of your rewards. They have trophies, rings, championship belts, all designed to tell your league mates who the champion is. All of it's available at trophysmack.com/club fantasy, or just hit the link in the description of this podcast.
All right, let's dive back into these audience questions. Our boy Smitty, start 2 of these 3 wide receivers, Nico Collins, Rashee Rice, DK Metcalf. How the hell are you going to bench any of these wide receivers right now, Josh? But if I had to, I guess it's DK Metcalf.
God, I love that matchup against.
I do too, but I mean, I like everything that you got going on here.
Shit, man. Who does Houston have this week?
Nico Collins is
Seattle,
at Seattle.
Yeah. In Seattle on Monday night.
Yep.
Oof.
Matchup wise, you could call that one tough, but Nico Collins has looked good.
Yeah, he has. I'm gonna say sit DK out of these 3
begrudgingly.
Yeah, he's not the volume guy that I had hoped he would be, because they're targeting the tight end so much. He's the big play guy, and truthfully, if he doesn't score a touchdown, it's like 10 points.
Kind of boring. Yeah.
Yeah. So, which again, I mean, it's a great matchup, but it's a short week. So you've held Rice this long because you want to start him, plain and simple. So give me the higher upside guys in Nico and Rice. Jonathan
Santiago just clearing up for us that he is trying to acquire Flowers, and we were both on board. Give up Wandale.
Give up Flowers. Get Flowers, 100%.
Yep. Christian Cruz has Caleb Williams, Justin Fields, and Bo Nix. Is it worth to drop one of those guys to pick up another decent waiver wire ad? If it's a 2 QB, the answer is no. If it's a 1 QB, Josh, with Nix and Williams, I'm fine with dropping Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it. Honestly, I wouldn't even be mad about dropping Nix right now. He's looked terrible too. So
if it's a 2 QB, do not drop any quarterbacks ever.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that this is a 1 quarterback, but yeah, if it's a 1 QB league, dude, you don't need 3 quarterbacks.
You could probably.
I'd wager you probably don't need 2.
Bears had their bye, right? Am I wrong about that? I'm blanking.
I think so. Maybe. I honestly can't even remember.
Well, regardless, you only need Caleb Williams from this group.
It's also true. Yeah. So I mean, if you're that desperate at
feel free to drop 2, unless it's a 2 QB league. I need to just be very clear about that.
Bears have had their bye week because they've only played 5 games.
Yeah.
So yeah, at that point, honestly, like you don't need the other 2. Like maybe you can swing a trade, like try to sell, even if it's sell low on Fields. Like I'm fine with it. People don't pay up for quarterbacks in 1 QB leagues anyway. But if you can get a flex
for a
starter,
wide receiver,
if you can get a flex starter at wide receiver, absolutely do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Drop Cam Ward or Jaden Blue for Michael Penix in redraft leagues. Again,
I'm not dropping Ward in a super flex. I was
going to say I missed the super flex. Thank you. I'm not yet. Do not drop Cam Ward in a super flex.
You're dropping Jaden Blue.
Drop Jaden Blue for Michael Penix in every format. I don't care that he's a stash. Michael Penix in super flex is your stash. Let's be very clear about that.
100%.
Tugging at my heartstrings here, Bill or T-Mac in the flex this week. Panthers have the Jets. I do not remember off the top of my head who Bill has. At Dallas. Great matchup for.
I'm going Bill.
Yeah, I'm going Bill as well. I love.
I mean, he got kind of phased out this week because they threw 3 touchdowns, but.
To the most random receivers ever.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, shit, with McLaurin hurt and Debo struggling with a heel injury, like, kind of what you were going to get.
It's just so funny to me. I feel like Chris Moore pops up once a week every year for the last 5 years or once a season. And it's like, this guy. We buy homes near you. 10-team PPR. Is Kyler droppable? I believe
non-PPR.
Non-PPR. My apologies. Thank you, Josh. Is Kyler? No, it doesn't matter for this question anyway. Is Kyler droppable for Darnold, Purdy, Stroud, or Dart? His QB1 is Danny Dimes. assuming again that this is not super flex, I don't believe it is. I am absolutely fine of dropping Kyler to go get Jaxson Dart.
Yeah, 100%. Honestly, I would rather have any of those 4 quarterbacks over Kyler Murray right now.
I agree wholeheartedly.
You can also make the case that you don't need a second quarterback because you have Danny Dimes and it's a 1 QB league. So,
and that's where I was going to say, like, Dart, I feel like is worth that extra throw.
I agree.
If it's a 1 QB. So
I agree.
Fantasy sports is all of us right now. He was hoping for back-to-back good games out of Calvin Ridley, but he gets hurt. Do we think Ridley's value increases in this new offense, Josh, or do we see him getting traded? I'm going to answer that second question first. I don't see any chance. I don't think anybody's looking to buy Calvin Ridley, and I think that's going to be the bigger issue. Even if they wanted to trade him, I don't think he moves. I think he's a Titan.
I don't like anticipating if somebody's going to get traded.
Except for Breece Hall. We'll anticipate.
Well, even then, because the moment that I think he should, he's not.
Well, and let's be clear, Josh.
And the NFL trade deadline is just too early in the season for teams to give up. That's
and Josh, you're absolutely right, because I was banking all this Kendry Miller love on Alvin Kamara, and then they flat out came out and said, we're not trading him. And now, like, I'm not going to say you look like an ass holding Miller, but you're not as happy as you once were.
Well, and that's the other side of it, right? Like, it's just frustrating because of the salary cap, it makes trades that much more difficult because teams don't always have a ton of available cap space in the middle of the season. And then they have to get super creative. Ridley got paid. Kamara got paid. So, like, there's a lot of things that you have to wiggle through. And for as much as the salary cap isn't real, it is real. And teams still have to get creative, and not all teams have salary cap wizards working in their front office.
And I think it's a lot more real for trades than it is for off-season acquisitions, because they can do weird shit with the contract and off-season acquisitions.
It's a little harder in season. Correct. Yeah. So from the trade perspective, no, don't bank on that one bit. Him getting hurt is the biggest issue, because this could be a 1-week injury. It could be a 4-week injury. He's an older player and it's a hamstring. So
words out of my mouth.
That's that. Yeah. Could the offense be revived? Sure. Do you want to bank on it? No.
Yeah.
Kind of where I'm at. For as high as I was on Ridley heading into the season, hopes dwindled very quickly.
Yeah, I was thinking about this morning. Is my two guys who I called the biggest values in fantasy were Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Swift. And they both looked really bad until about a week ago and until last night. And now I'm looking okay on DeAndre Swift. So, Teeks, trade BTJ and Olave for CeeDee Lamb. Josh, I saw this question when Teeks put it up about 10 minutes ago. I've been debating it the whole time. I think I'm making this trade. I think I want CeeDee Lamb.
The way that Dak Prescott and that Dallas Cowboys passing attack is operating, 100% you want CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
I do think it's a lot to give up.
It is.
But right
that's
now,
what it's going to take to get Lamb.
That's what I'm saying. Right now, none of them have the ceiling that CeeDee Lamb does. That's the long and short of it.
And you can probably fill that wide receiver 2 spot that you're giving up somewhere. So,
yep.
Skywalker. Holders drop Ridley for any of Wandale, Kayshon Boutte, Kendrick Bourne, Jawan Jennings. Josh actually hit this very well on the head. It might have been these same players, but it might not have been. If you need a win or a wide receiver this week, it's Kendrick Bourne, right?
Yep. 100%. Rest of the season, I'd probably favor Wandale.
That's where I was too.
Over Ridley right now. The San Francisco wide receivers, it's a crapshoot. It truly is. Simply because health is just such a concern. And they have such a condensed target tree in that offense.
The other thing I was going to throw out, Jennings is fighting with the coach, and that's not for nothing either, and that can get weird. So
yeah, so I think right now I'd probably go Wandale, Bourne. I think I still would go Ridley over Boutte, because
it was really one good week after.
Yeah, and it was a homecoming for him because he played at LSU. So.
Oh, such a great point. Didn't even think about that because he has been worthless. He didn't even make most of my list this week, Josh, Kayshon Boutte, because I'm like, this is a 1-week thing. I'm not buying back into this. So Smitty has to start 2 running backs out of 4. Hendo, Monty, Rachaad White, Breece Hall.
I think you have to start Breece with Garrett Wilson out. Like, he is the lone offensive weapon there.
And with I think this one answers itself with Bucky Irving out. I think you have to start Rachaad White. I'm starting both of these two. Monty always
no idea how much that pains me to say, by the way.
I know. Monty makes a push always. If you're like Josh and you hate Rachaad White, maybe Monty. Henderson does not belong in this conversation.
Yeah, Rachaad White just really has not looked good. He's just been
out
by short yardage touchdowns.
I was going to say, he's just getting boosted by being on one of the best offenses in football right now.
Yeah, so. I mean, they do get the Lions this week. Lions do have a good rush defense, which makes that a little But honestly, Tampa Bay's run defense is really fucking good too, and I don't think Monty has the same kind of upside, especially in the passing game. So I'm going to begrudgingly say Brees and White.
There you go. Trade QJ for Waddle. Josh, I think I want the Waddle side of this.
I want QJ.
Do you?
Better offense.
I don't know if Christian's brought up if it was PPR or not.
I think couldn't care less whether it is or isn't.
Really?
Yeah. I want the better. I want the piece in the better offense. And quite frankly, there is no difference between these two for me, really much from a talent perspective either, but how they're being used. Like Waddle's in and out of the lineup all the time.
That's fair.
Is he a more refined player than QJ? 100%. But how much does that refinement make him a better option when Tua is his quarterback versus Justin Herbert? QJ scoring touchdowns. I want the touchdowns.
Yep. I am not going to try to pronounce your name. Ayakshi.
Yes, we answer all questions. Drop it in the chat.
We answer all questions. We're about to do a segment. We answer questions after segments. Josh, it's time to move on. I will remind everybody, if you have questions after the show is over, think about joining our Discord. It is absolutely free. We answer all questions. We cover all of these shows. We cover DFS. We cover things that have nothing to do with fantasy football. But we get into the main part of the show. Josh, we call it Morse code. These are the players that are going to help you get a leg up on your league, either avoiding them or adding them. We break these ones down by position. Josh, I got to say, as we get later in the season, obviously I mentioned Jaxson Dart in my article. The QBs get less and less interesting. So we have the main two, I think, for 10 to 12 team leagues. I do want to point out that we did 8 teams. We have 14 teams, its own segment. 8 to 10 or 10 to 12 team leagues, your basic fantasy league, Josh. Sam Darnold, Trevor Lawrence. QB 12 on the season, QB 14 on the season. Nobody's setting the world on fire, but Darnold has showed us a ceiling.
And that ceiling's name is Jackson Smith and Jigba.
That's the damn truth.
God, I cannot stress how wrong I was about how he was going to fit in this offense. Jesus Christ. I'm putting Darnold ahead of Trevor Lawrence, plain and simple.
Oh, 100%.
Neither really offer much rushing upside. Like if you take the Kansas City game out of it, Trevor Lawrence doesn't have a single game over 10 rushing yards.
Yeah, when I was projecting Sam Darnold, I remember that one season where he had like 5 rushing touchdowns, and I always let that weigh way too heavily in my head. This guy gives you nothing on the ground.
He's averaging less than 10 rushing yards per game. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm not, it's all about JSN. Let's be real here. So, and I think because of that, it puts him in the low end QB1 conversation.
Absolutely.
I think they're both streamers though, because in any given week, they could be top 10, top 12. With Trevor Lawrence, I still think there's a lot he's figuring out with Liam Cohen's offense. There's still a lot of, inconsistencies with Brian Thomas Jr. right now. Here's hoping that he catches fire like he did towards the end of last season and just vaults up the wide receiver rankings. But, they're still trying to figure out how they want to use Travis Hunter right now.
Exactly.
Like there's no consistency in this passing offense at all. Trevor Lawrence is very matchup dependent for me. But I would be much more willing to grab and start in a given week Sam Darnold over Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. Get the guy with the best wide receiving option, which is certainly JSN. If you're out there looking at your league right now, Jaxson Dart is pretty well ahead of both of these guys.
I would agree.
When I'm looking to buy.
He has a higher floor, 100%.
Yeah, even with that terrible Denver matchup. I want to reiterate, this show is very in on Jaxson Dart, but we are also very likely to destroy him on tomorrow night's show because that Denver matchup is no joke. As we move on to the running backs, Josh, I tried to pick and choose here carefully. There's a lot more running backs in the deep league section. I wanted guys that you might start in a 10 to 12. And again, this is pushing it on some of these names. There's one name that I found very interesting. Kenneth Gainwell, Tyler Algier, Justice Hill, Sean Tucker, and Josh, I'm going to start with the last guy on this list. I was shocked to find that everybody is dropping Trey Benson, 53% rostered right now on ESPN. I think this is a terrible mistake, whether or not you have IR or not. This is a guy who I think he's coming back right at the 4-week mark. and nobody has done much in his stead. Bam Knight has been fun. Michael Carter's catching passes. Trey Benson is not losing his job to these guys, Josh.
Oh, 100% he's not losing his job. But if you're in, I mean, look at all the wide receivers that are hurt right now. This is why he's on IR, or that's why he's on waivers, because people are just desperate and
they have to go get wide receivers.
They have to go get these wide receivers. And there's only so many IR spots in most leagues. Like some leagues don't have any. Some leagues only have one.
Yeah.
Some leagues maybe have 3 or 4, but it's a crapshoot. And when you're navigating these types of injuries, you have to make that tough call. So, the last report that I read is that at the earliest Benson is coming back is week 10.
Oh,
that's
interesting.
The earliest.
Okay.
And by that point, your fantasy season could be toast. I mean, we've got people in our Discord to be like, damn, man, I'm sitting at 2 and 4 right now. Like, I need some serious help. Like, you can't afford to hold Trey Benson at that point because you might not win again for the next 3 weeks, and he's not going to help you. So that's why Benson is on waivers in some of these leagues. So it's the tough calls that you have to make. Like when people, Quincy's in the chat, hey, would you drop Henderson to pick up Higgins? You know what? If I need to, yeah, I am. Henderson hasn't fucking done anything.
Yeah, and Benson certainly hasn't. I didn't realize how much later it was on his comeback. I thought we should be expecting him back in 2 weeks. So,
yeah, I think it's a little.
I mean, I guess that's week 9.
It's a meniscus surgery, or not meniscus, or one of those two.
I say if it's meniscus, he's done.
Yeah, maybe MCL strain or
just a strain.
Or knee injury. That's all I know.
Yep.
But again, knees are tricky, and he's a running back. So
yep. For everybody asking questions, we are going to get to them right after this segment. We never miss a question. You guys don't have to worry about that. Josh, Kenneth Gainwell, still more involved, I thought, than with Jaylen Warren back, even than most of us thought he was going to be. Didn't look bad this week and probably worth a roster spot.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of put him, Algier, Justice Hill, even Tajay Spears. They're all in the same category for me.
Absolutely.
They are low floor options that have standalone value, but they shoot right up when the starter ahead of them goes out.
I think what makes me nervous about Gainwell is that he did everything he did this week receiving, and eventually Jaylen Warren's going to get all that receiving.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's pretty clear that they have defined roles in this Steelers offense. Like it's always, it's the runner, it's the pass catcher. That's kind of how Arthur Smith wants to run it. But, Jaylen Warren is such a good pass catcher. I think maybe it was just this week because even in the early part of the season before Jaylen Warren got hurt, he was still catching a ton of passes.
Yeah.
So I think that, the London game where Gainwell really popped, it earned him more playing time. That's really what it boiled down to for me.
There you go. And Josh, let's wrap up the running backs with Sean Tucker. You kind of already alluded to this. With everybody getting hurt in this Tampa Bay offense, we could see more Tucker. Averaged over 4 yards per carry this week and found the end zone.
I keep saying he's good. I don't know why the Bucs aren't fucking playing him.
I've been saying he's good. I just don't know that they're ever going to use him.
No, and that's really the problem is that he's not seeing the kind of snap share that we want him to see because, again, we know he's good. Why Tampa doesn't feel that he is, I don't fucking know. But they need to be able to use Rachaad White more as a pass catcher, plain and simple. And if that's the case, that should open up the opportunities for Sean Tucker. Problem, like I said, they play the Lions this week. I don't want to start one. I don't want to start Sean Tucker. So if I'm not starting Sean Tucker this week, Bucky Irving potentially comes back next week. It's a waste of FAAB. It's a waste of waiver priority, in my opinion.
There you go. Moving on to the wide receivers, we would be remiss if we didn't mention Jordan Whittington. He'll probably be the only one we really talk about here. Romeo Dobbs still out there in a bunch of leagues. Trey Tucker, Darnell Mooney, Josh Downs, and Christian Kirk. But Josh, we need to start with Whittington. With Puka Nacua going down, we know Devontae Adams is that dude, but somebody needs to be the wide receiver too, and it seems like it's going to be Jordan Whittington.
Yeah, I know you're going to see a lot of people that are going to jump on the Tutu Atwell train, which, again, rightfully so. If Puka is going to miss multiple weeks, Atwell's going to have a role. He's going to definitely see an uptick in targets. But your main target hog now is going to be Devontae Adams. Excuse me. He was already seeing a ton of targets anyway because this is a pass funnel offense. Like, they target their top 2 guys, and that's that. But something that a lot of teams do, and maybe fantasy managers aren't fully on board with this trend, you're not just moving one guy into, up the rung, right? they have their defined positions. They have their X, they have their Z, they have their Y. And Puka plays this sort of like Z position. Adams isn't going to move to that. Adams is the X. The Rams heavily target the X, though. So now it becomes who's going to play the Z. Tutu Atwell is not a Z. He's a slot receiver. Whittington can play the Z. When he was drafted last year, they said that he had a lot of the same traits that Puka Nacua had. Puka missed some time the previous last year. Whittington had some games where he was in this role. Tyler Johnson also played into that. They would mix and match a little bit. Now they don't have Tyler Johnson. They have Tutu Atwell. They have, obviously Whittington and Adams. Whittington is going to play more of that prominent role. So you're going to see a lot of Adams. You're going to see a lot of Whittington. You're going to see some Tutu Atwell. So it really becomes, who does Stafford have the most trust in? You're going to see a lot of 30+% target share games for Adams for as long as Puka's out. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
But Whittington's going to have an opportunity at 15 to 20% target share. And that's something that needs to be rostered.
It's the nature of this offense. Exactly. And then I'll just quickly throw in Josh Downs started the season just as a flat out disappointment. We've seen his targets uptick in each of the last 2 weeks, found the end zone this week. Certainly in full PPR, if you're looking for a flex play for the next couple of weeks, Josh Downs should be on your radar.
He just makes me nervous, man.
Oh, he should. I mean,
he really does.
Let's be clear. I still don't fully trust Daniel Jones. I'm not that forgiving. So at tight end, again, we're looking at 10 to 12 team leagues. Josh, Harold Fannin, K. Dot, and I know you're not huge on board with Evan Ingram, but he does seem to be getting more involved. AJ Barner. I really wanted to focus on Fannin and Otten. There's not a ton to say about Otten, Josh, except for with every wide receiver going down, this is the recipe for how Cade Otton gets more involved in the Tampa Bay offense.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the way that it's happened over the past few years. But now it's taking them to be on their 5th wide receiver. Like, it almost feels like the new offensive coordinator, Grizzard, is just like
not a tight end.
Tight end,
Six targets this week, 5 for 51. Though, like I said, he gets a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Josh, David Njoku, I think he's dealing with a banged up knee. I don't think it's anything too serious if I remember, but Harold Fannin steps up and does the damn thing in the second half of this game with David Njoku down.
Yeah, I just wish that his quarterback could throw more than 10 yards down the field. Dude, Fannin's going to have like a 3 ADOT with Gabriel at quarterback.
He's this year's Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yeah, that's my biggest worry right now with these Cleveland pass catchers is that Gabriel just doesn't push the ball down the field. Yep. And the fact that he threw 52 times is just egregious. Like, that is ridiculous.
The fact that he threw 52 times and I didn't realize it because he put up no numbers is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Josh, let's quickly run through Mayday. These are the players you can cut, and then we'll shift over to user questions, audience questions. These are the players that I look at that are rostered in more than 50% of leagues. I look at them as cuttable. Josh might give me a little pushback. I know you're going to give me a pushback on the first guy because of his matchup this week. I do think Justin Fields is getting into iffy territory. They're talking about benching him, and while it's just denying benching him, it's being talked about. And Josh, I think the same could be said about Kyler Murray. I know Fields has this matchup this week, so this is probably not the week to cut him. But again, I'm just saying he and Murray are getting into very iffy categories.
Yeah, the way that I think it was Petzing was on the podium, they were talking about how they, switched up the offense a little bit and catered it more to Jacoby Brissett. And it screams, well, why haven't you done that for Kyler? You're not playing to his strengths. Like, why do you hate him? Right.
Yeah.
I feel like for the last 7 years, basically since Kyler has been drafted, he is winning on sheer talent.
Yeah.
Because no offensive coordinator can figure out how to build an offense around his traits. Like, I just don't get it. But about Fields, I think he's got a good matchup this week. Obviously, it hurts a lot if Wilson misses any level of time. But I literally have been saying this going back to the offseason. Fields is not a good quarterback. He is playing in the New York market. The media will be loud. If he is not winning games, he will get benched.
And right now, folks, he's not winning any game.
Yeah, he's literally 0-6. Or let me rephrase that. He's not 0-6. The team is 0-6.
Yeah.
I understand that Tyrod Taylor is not some special talent. There's a reason he is a backup quarterback. and he's on the older side. Coaches want to win, plain and simple. And if the guy that you brought in is not winning, I don't care how he's performing. A change will be made, plain and simple.
Yep. Josh, I never tell people to drop running backs. It wasn't going to change this week, but when you look at what Isaiah Pacheco hasn't done, I think in shallow leagues, the 8 teams, maybe even the 10-team leagues, I think Isaiah Pacheco is an easy drop if you're looking to make room on your roster.
I've been saying this for 3 weeks.
You have. I'm nervous about dropping running backs. He is technically still the starter, but my God, he's 7
I would rather I would rather stash Rashad Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, look, maybe with a healthy wide receiver core, the running game gets up and running finally. But right now, the running game is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. Which has been wild. I was telling Marlia and my wife about that, where I'm like, Patrick Mahomes is, I think, leading the league in rushing touchdowns right now for quarterbacks. So.
He might be. I think he has 5.
Yeah. And then, Josh, in any league, I think you are fine if you need a roster spot this week. We've talked about this guy a lot. Calvin Ridley. You and I have been shitting on Jerry Jeudy for weeks now. We've been calling Travis Hunter's a drop. Don't wait for this pop week. I brought up, on top of the injury, I don't like that Jawan Jennings is fighting with this coach. I think Jawan Jennings is a drop. And Josh, the Baltimore Ravens on bye, a lot of people are going to be scratching their head about what to do with Mark Andrews. Go ahead and drop him if you need to. But I think the last one we need to talk about before we move on to the listener questions is, do we need to concede defeat on Jawan Johnson? We were pretty defensive of him last week. Another bad week. He's now stacking bad weeks, Josh. He's starting to feel way more like a streamer than an every week start.
Yeah, I touched on this during Anxiety's Panic or Chill the Fuck Out yesterday. 3 straight weeks with 3 or fewer targets. Like, this offense started out of the gate with heavy targets to Jawan Johnson. Because maybe it's because Rashid Shaheed just didn't catch the offense, but he's been a lot more involved the last 3 weeks. They're getting the wide receivers more involved. They're throwing to Kamara a little bit more. And that's just leaving scraps for Jawan Johnson. And really, this shouldn't come as much of a surprise, because how often did Dallas Goedert get targeted last year in Philly? Yeah. Right? Like, Kellen Moore is used to having a quality tight end, but he's also never really had a good wide receiver 2 either.
Yeah.
Outside of last year in Philly. Like, if you look at all those Dallas Cowboy teams, there was the one year where they had the 3 guys. It was Cooper, it was Lamb, and Michael Gallup, where they all approached 1,000 yards. But the tight end was kind of the 4th option there.
Yeah.
And, so obviously they don't have the same level of quarterback play here in New Orleans with the Saints, and they're not going to throw near as much as that. But Jawan Johnson is for me, he's a streamer, but I wouldn't even go that far. This was a great matchup for him. New England sucks against the tight ends, and he had 2 catches for 15 yards.
Yep.
Like, that's not going to get it done. So.
Indeed. Moving on, audience questions. Harry Brooks starts off with a great question that goes perfectly with this segment. Loves the show. We love you, Harry. Yep. How do we choose to move on from players? He says he's bad at this. He's been, he's still holding on to, I think he forgot to put the player name in here, but that's okay. He's holding on to somebody for far too long. Josh, I'm going to separate this for how I pick players for our show. I'll quickly let you guys know how I pick them from our show. I go to ESPN, I sort by roster percentage, and I take a look at players who are ranked far outside what you should be worried about starting at that position. Josh, for my own team, it really comes down to this question. Am I ever going to feel comfortable starting them? And is there somebody I am comfortable gambling with on waivers? Those are the 2 things I focus on. Calvin Ridley is a great example. I'm holding Calvin Ridley in a lot of leagues because I was big on Calvin Ridley when the season started. I have reached the point, Josh, where I am no longer comfortable starting Calvin Ridley. So when I go check that league for waivers today, if there's somebody out there, I'm going to use the example Wan'Dale Robinson, or somebody who I know I'm comfortable starting in my flex, Kendrick Bourne this week, I am now comfortable dropping Calvin Ridley. So for me, and you actually kind of opened my eyes to this being my method, Josh, is, am I ever going to start them? And if I'm not, is there somebody I'd rather stash on waivers?
And that's really what it boils down to. I think for the first month of the season, when you're looking at some of the guys that you drafted highly, you're paying a lot of attention to draft capital. You're like, man, I spent a 4th round pick on this guy. They haven't done shit. I can't keep holding him because, I'm 1-3 or whatever it is. And we say this in our Mayday section all the time. It's like, it's okay to drop big name players.
Yep.
We all had high hopes for Travis Hunter going into the season, but the caveat was always he plays defense. So we don't know what we're getting.
It's not bad.
We're heading into week 7. We have the data. They're going back and forth. He is a yo-yo. You're never going to feel comfortable starting him.
Nope.
At all. Even in IDP leagues, you're not comfortable starting him.
Same league where I'm about to drop Ridley, I'm about to drop Travis Hunter as well. So
like, that's really what it boils down to. So, take the draft capital out of it. I usually use about the first month of the season because, the first 3 weeks is really, it's still an extension of preseason. Teams are really trying to work out the kinks, and you see a lot of, ebbs and flows with that. There's a lot of game plans, different things that will come into play, snap rates, all this kind of crap. But that's really what it boils down to. Do I feel comfortable starting them?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, and there's somebody on waivers that you're like, you know what, I can see them balling out this week because I love this matchup, pull the trigger.
And Quincy with the perfect follow-up question to this, didn't even realize he was doing it. Has Lamar and Darnold, needs another quarterback this week, doesn't want to drop Darnold. Who should they drop? Travis Hunter is the easy drop from this list of players. So.
I mean, you could even go so far as Jacoby Myers, honestly.
I hate Jacoby Myers. Guess what, Josh? He's on that same fucking team. That is how nerve-wracking. Thankfully, I have Devontae Adams, and he's about to carry me to the promised land.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, those are your bottom 2 guys, Quincy. It's Travis Hunter and Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, and it's
and again, it's not because they don't have talent or because they're
fantasy.
It's fantasy. It's all about opportunity. These guys aren't giving it right now.
Yep. Good luck on turning that streak around. And one person I wanted to throw out here: do not drop Kendrick Bourne. You need to start him this week. We think he's a great start this week. He says the cupboard's kind of bare at tight end. This is our boy AE. He has Hawkinson and Mason Taylor right now. He's 2-4. His wide receivers are Waddle, Sutton, J-Mo, A.J. Brown, and Trey Tucker. He does have Saquon and Kyron currently, has Rashad White in the flex. Would we trade AJB for Kittle? So that would leave him Waddle, Sutton, J-Mo. He has Hawk and Taylor. I do think Hawk is – I don't like Hawk, Josh, but he did look good before their bye week.
If you can make this a 2 for 2,
get
and
your own
maybe
wide receiver
give
back.
Hawkinson and get another wide receiver back, I would feel a lot more comfortable with it. I understand. Look, on this in a vacuum, this is a fair trade. I'm fine with it.
Yeah,
in a vacuum.
I'm making this trade, but I would also look to improve the trade.
Yeah, you've got to be able to improve at wide receiver. Sutton is inconsistent because of that offense. Waddle's fine, but he's just a wide receiver 2 for me.
Yeah.
J-Mo is straight up boomer bust. Like, I don't even want to roster him in fantasy right now. And Trey Tucker is waiver wire fodder in my opinion.
If they need a tight end themselves, offer them both of your guys. You don't need to worry about your bench for Kittle. Well, I guess he's not officially back this week. Never mind. Don't do that.
But I mean, hanging on to Mason Taylor is fine. Again,
especially
without
with
Garrett Wilson, he could very easily see 10 targets a game.
Yeah.
So, again, try to pair like Hawkinson, maybe get a wide receiver in return. Honestly, I would take a flex option for a Hawkinson at this point. Like,
there you go.
You're not going to get a bona fide 2, but yeah, in a vacuum, I like AJ Brown for Kittle. That's fine. I still think at the end of the season, you're still looking at AJ Brown as the better player, but
yeah, I would make it just because I want the advantage at tight end, but I agree. Try to make the trade better. Josh, I think we both agree. Go get Cam Scatterbo.
Yeah. This is your, if all parts are equal, favor the running back. That's what this is. And for me, it's sometimes a tier up. I'll give a wide receiver for a slight tier down at running back just because I want the running backs. Harry asks if he has to reach out, what's better, Discord or X? He said, my X picture threw him off because it's clean shaven. I'm pretty sure my X picture is actually my little bobblehead doll. Yeah. So not only is it clean shaven, it's not actually me, but yeah, I did not have the big beard. Really quickly for me, if you at me on Discord, I have notifications on Discord. I do not have them on Twitter, but I do check Twitter once a day. If you want timely Discord,
if you want just easy access to me, Twitter's still fine.
Yep.
And I'm sure Josh has been great. Josh has been killing it answering Discord questions, far better than me. Josh, very broad question. Which defense should we have? They're thinking New England. Is that going back to our last question about defense? I don't think it was this person. Here's what I'll do for you.
You're the streamer, man.
Yeah, let me list you my top 10 defenses for the week right now, very early. My top 10 defenses for the week. Denver gets the Giants, they're number 1. Rams get Jacksonville, they're number 2. Jacksonville gets the Rams, they're number 3, especially with no Puka Nacua. Pittsburgh gets Cincinnati, they're 4. Green Bay at Arizona is 5. New England at Tennessee is 6. Kansas City versus Vegas is 7. Seattle versus Houston is 8. Houston versus Seattle is 9, and the Cleveland Browns getting the Miami Dolphins is 10. Those are my top 10 defenses for the week. Very subject to change. So if I had my druthers, if I could have any defense I want, I'm taking Denver against the rookie in Mile High, plain and simple. So,
that's fair.
Josh, is Joe Mixon a hold?
I've been seeing the reports that I guess the GM was asked during the bye week what kind of progress Mixon is on, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's a foot injury, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really know how much you can draw conclusions to that, if he's going to come back healthy or not. I think Chubb hasn't looked terrible. Woody Marks obviously had a great one game. So it allows them to be patient with Mixon. And I think that's the biggest issue. Like, maybe he comes back in week 14. But are you really ever going to feel comfortable starting him? I wouldn't. So it's a waste of roster spot, in my opinion.
Yep. If you don't have an IR spot, or if you need someone else in that IR spot, I'm fine.
Best case, if Mixon returns, this creates a 3-headed committee. And you're never going to feel comfortable starting that.
Exactly. He has Dobbins and QJ, who he doesn't necessarily need. Who would you package them for?
Right now, QJ is a top 12 wide receiver.
And Dobbins is top 15 running back.
Bro, if you don't need them, I want your team. Shit.
Yeah.
Shoot for the moon, man. Shoot for the moon.
Maybe go after Scatabo, Quinshon Judkins, Josh Jacobs.
Fuck that, man.
Is that not high enough?
Pair them both and shoot for Achane. Shoot for CMC. Like,
there you go. Achane, CMC. Maybe Jamar Chase, CD Lamb. People seem really willing to move off of CD Lamb.
Yeah.
So.
Shoot for the moon.
Yeah, go for you. Have
package them both if you don't need them.
Yeah, you have nice fantasy assets there. Make that move. Has RJ Harvey and Travion Henderson on the bench? Are they still a hold, Josh? He's 6-0, but could use more depth right now. And he mentioned like Harold Fan and Kimani Vidal out there on waivers, and the QBs he mentioned earlier. Josh, if I'm 6-0, I don't need any of the players he's mentioned, and I certainly don't need a backup quarterback. I'm going to hold the rookie running backs and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, you have the ability to be patient because you're 6-0.
Yep. And
I think that's sometimes the disconnect with fantasy managers is they forget that just because somebody is underperforming that they have to move off of them. Your record tells you who you are.
Yep.
So if you're winning without them, you have the ability to be patient. Now, if this is flipped and you're 0-6,
you absolutely move off of them. And
if you're 1-5, you're 2-4, you're moving off of them faster than the Roadrunner chasing or running from the coyote. Like that's how you're doing it. But you're 6-0, dude. Be patient. It's okay.
Yep. Josh, I think we decided on this one. Either or. I would go Fields. I don't remember if you decided on one, but we actually said this was the team with Caleb Williams. He could drop both, and we're not mad at that.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of the same player at this point. I still think Fields on any given week has more upside simply because he could rush for 100 yards, and you're not going to get that from Knicks. But, I mean, I'm fine with either, truthfully.
Day of the Water just kind of chimes in on our Justin Fields back and forth, said that he thinks Fields may have been told not to throw. They had to play to not turn the ball over. Denver's good. Yeah, it's tough to draw any conclusions. I'm glad they're not benching him. So,
but if you're being told as a quarterback not to throw,
because
what level of confidence do you have in your quarterback at that point?
Very true.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
You're basically saying, we're paying you to throw the football, but don't throw the football because you're going to turn it over. No, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah. Keenan, welcome back to the show. Do we think CeeDee Lamb plays this week? If so, we need to pick 2 out of Trey Tucker, Bourne, and Lamb. I do think Lamb plays, and if Lamb plays, it's Bourne and Lamb pretty easily for me. I'm not in ever a rush to start Trey Tucker.
Yeah, not even in a rush to roster Trey Tucker.
Shut up, Josh.
Look, I'm just saying, I mean, look, I'm not a doctor. I truthfully have no idea. I mean, they said likely he was going to miss 2 games, potentially 3. It is a high ankle sprain. But, I mean, this question is going to answer itself. None of these guys played Thursday. True. So,
yeah. Similar question to what we had a little bit ago. He has Vidal and Bourne. Any realistic trades? I think this one's tough because most people have to view these guys as temporary, Josh. I might be going after guys like Bill, who is going to keep his job. There was a Wan'Dale Robinson, guys who are lesser than, but they're going to keep their jobs. Both of these guys are unlikely to hold on to this job.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what? Like, we're getting questions in our Discord about like people giving up prime assets for like a Rashad White because of 2 weeks. And I'm just like, look, if there's managers out there that are willing to disregard that and just play it week to week, 100%, go get those assets that can be there long term. Like, you know what? If somebody's got Cam Scatterbo, offer both of them. Go get Cam. See if it's out there.
Travis Etienne, I feel like managers may be turning on him a little bit. Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. I've been way too cautious with my trade offers. Josh says shoot the moon.
Shoot for the moon. If somebody comes back to you and says, bro, I'm not trading for those 2 guys, they don't have jobs, then you know that you can't get one over on that manager. And that's okay.
And then never send them another.
That's not being disrespectful. That's just that's you doing your due diligence.
Absolutely. And then Day of the Water just gloating a little bit, I feel like. Maybe not on purpose, but dropped Ridley in week 2, dropped Diggs in week 4, got Rashee Rice. What a fucking pickup.
Love it.
Didn't even have to hold him this whole time. Congratulations. All right, guys.
Smitty literally chimes in with exactly what I was talking about with Fields. Why have him out there at quarterback if you don't want him to throw? It makes no fucking sense.
Exactly. All right, we're going to get into our last segment. We call it Deep Sea Diving. If you have any questions, get them in right now. We'll end the show with the speed round of questions. This is what you're looking at in 14 teams and up. My home league happens to be a 14-team league. These are the kind of players that you may have to consider rostering, certainly, maybe even starting. These are broken down by position, but I'm just going to give you a long list of names, and we'll talk about a few of them. Joe Flacco, Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, I feel like are 2 guys in deeper leagues that do need to be considered. Kareem Hunt, Kendre Miller, Samaje Perine, both Cleveland running backs, Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson, have put up decent weeks. Kyle Monangai seems involved. Jeremy McNichols is involved. Ray Davis has been involved. Josh brought up Rashard Smith earlier. Bashal Tutin. Josh, my note with this is running back handcuffs need to be rostered in deep leagues. Do not waste roster spots on bad wide receivers. Roster running backs, because all of these guys are an injury away from being phenomenal. We're talking Kimani Vidal trades now.
100%.
At wide receiver, lots of guys out there. Malik Washington, Calvin Austin, Hollywood Brown, Kendrick Bourne, I look at as more of a deeper league. Clearly, he should have been in the 10 to 12 league discussion. Kayshon Boutte, I think, in deeper leagues. Tyquan Thornton, Tutu Atwell. Lil Jordan Humphrey pops up for the Giants. They have a void at wide receiver. Someone needs to step up. Troy Franklin, Tez Johnson, Luke McCaffrey, Luther Burden. And then as we shift to tight end, Michael Mayer is going to be the starter for 1 more week. I think he deserves a look in deep leagues. Theo Johnson, Tyler Higbee, Aronde Godson pops this week, and Chiga Conquo. Josh, let's quickly start with Joe Flacco. The offense looked better this week, and you have the weapons in a deep league. I think Joe Flacco deserves some eyeballs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Unless it's
I'm not excited about it.
I'm not starting him at all. Like, of course, the same thing we talked about with Sam Darnold, right? Sam Darnold's got JSN. Joe Flacco's got Jamar Chase. Like, he's going to put up some, streamable weeks if you're desperate when bye weeks start coming through. But he's still turnover prone at 40 plus years old. So
absolutely. Josh, does the news that Alvin Kamara is going nowhere sour you completely on Kendre Miller, or is he still viable in these deeper leagues?
No, it's just the same thing as what we were talking about earlier with like Tyler Algier and Tajay Spears. Like, we know what his role is. He has a low floor. The ceiling pops up if something happens to Kamara.
Yep. Hollywood Brown, we already spent a lot of time on Kendrick Bourne, so we don't need to talk about him. But Hollywood Brown, Josh, with Rashee Rice coming back, it feels like Hollywood Brown was sitting in Rashee Rice's seat. I think he probably loses value where he's going to look. If you just go to your waivers right now based on fantasy points, Hollywood Brown looks like an ad should we be completely done with him with Rashee Rice back?
Same thing with Tyquan Thornton. I'm out on both. With Hollywood Brown, I am a little interested to see what his role is going to look like with those two, because my mind says your pecking order is, Rice and Worthy at the top, Kelsey, and then Hollywood Brown. Like, yes, Patrick Mahomes is the QB1 in fantasy right now. A lot of that is not because of his passing. It's because of his rushing. But it's still Patrick Mahomes. He's going to throw the football a ton. Maybe he can support 4 pass catchers, but I think you're still looking at a guy that maybe his ceiling is like 5 targets per game.
Yeah.
That's not rosterable, in my opinion. Maybe in 14-team league, sure, because it becomes a desperation. You have bye weeks and stuff, but 10, 12, I'm out on Hollywood, and Tyquan Thornton, you can just cast aside. Like, unless one of those guys aren't playing, he's out. So,
and then Josh, looking at the tight ends, we touched on this with K-Dot, and I think it's another thing that needs to be looked at. I don't think it's a coincidence Puka Nacua gets hurt and Tyler Higbee has his best week of the season.
So I'm literally going to read an excerpt that I got texted in the middle of this episode from one of our writers, Chris Molina, who happens to be a big Rams fan.
Yeah, big Rams guy.
Quote, listening to yesterday's episode, Monday's Anxiety, for the leagues that need a dart throw at tight end, Higbee. The tight end position is usually the third option when one of the 2 wide receivers are out. This is coming from a Rams fan.
I love it. No coordination.
Get Tyler Higbee.
No coordination. Chris, great minds, buddy. Great minds, Chris. I appreciate you. And then Josh, Rondé Godson, this is his second sort of pop week. 7 targets this week. Obviously, Quentin Johnston missed the week, but I think in deeper leagues, if you're wondering about a dart throw tight end, you could probably do worse than Rondé Godson.
Yeah, I think it needs to be Gadsden big time. Just look at how washed Keenan Allen looked. He was 3rd in targets with 7, 4 catches, 29 yards. Yeah. I think he's still a safety blanket, but he doesn't have that same upside that we saw the first month of the season. They're getting Ladd McConkey going. Quentin Johnston going to come back. Those are going to be your top 2 guys.
Absolutely.
And then I think your third targets are going to be kind of dispersed between Gadsden and Allen. Gadsden's got younger legs. Maybe crunch time is where Keenan Allen comes into play and Mr. Third Down. But Gadsden's going to be your bigger play option there.
Guys, I want to thank all of you for not inundating us with questions at the end of the show so we didn't have to rush to answer them. Thank you so very much. Tonight's show is not going to be a live episode, so no questions answered tonight. Sideline banner with Sam Holt and Tate McRae. Derek Tate. I'm eventually going to get this. I need to start reading the show sheet. Sideline banner with Derek and Sam tonight is a pre-record. That's going to go on at 10 o'clock still, right, Josh?
Yep.
Perfect. Me and Josh will be live again tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, for no pun intended. I'm not sure if we have Joe this week. We never really know if we have Joe. We'll find out at the last minute, as we always do. And then again, start-sit questions every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. with start-sit different day. The long and short of it is, if you like what you're hearing, hit the like button. If you want to hear it again, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, hit those follow buttons. We appreciate each and every one of you. Sideline banner tonight. No pun intended tomorrow. Good luck on waivers this week. We'll see you next week.